You go to the patient, then you lift the testes. If at all the pain reduces, the answer is epididymoarthritis. If the pain kind of increases, the answer is testicular torsion. So French sign is a sign to distinguish between these two conditions. That's very, very important. Obviously, the pain can occur some amount in the hydrocele and the varicocele also. That's fine. So yeah, this is how the testicular pain may present. Other places are like torsion of the hydrative Morgagni. Yeah, that is again one of the conditions where the testes may be painful. We'll talk about it. Okay. Now, post vasectomy, the pain can be there. Now, what you need to understand is just after the vasectomy, okay? So, there is 10% of the risk of the testicular pain in the short term. Let's say the patient got operated today, after 1, 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, the patient might come to you and around 10% of the patients might have pain. But over the long period of time, only 1% of the patients might have a chronic testicular pain. Now, there are a lot of hypotheses behind this. Some say that, because of the sperms are not able to kind of go out, and that's why there is a chronic kind of pain. There are various pathogenesis for that. But what you need to understand is that yes, post varicocelectomy, pain can be there. It is much more in the acute period. That's 10% of the patients might have it, but over the long run, only 1% of the patients might have it. Okay. Now coming to the LUTS. Okay, so there can be lower urinary tract symptoms. They can be either the storage symptoms or there can be voiding symptoms. What are the storage symptoms? The patient will complain of frequency, that he will say that I have to go again and again to the washroom. That's fine. Now normally we kind of wait around 2.5, 3 years before going to the washroom, 3 to 4 years. But if at all, let's say the patient has to go every half an hour or 1 hour or something, or maybe the patient has to go every 1.5 hours. So if at all the patient says that I have to go every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, probably the patient is in the overflow dribbling. But if at all the patient is, let's say, saying going after 1 hour, 1.5 hours, then probably the patient is having BPH or some obstructive, like bladder outlet obstruction or something like that. Might not have understood what I've said in like one sentence, but don't worry, I'll make you understand. Now, what do you understand by overflow dribbling? Okay, overflow dribbling is basically we have some limited amount of the capacity into the bladder. Now the kidneys are continuously producing the urine. Once the urine comes down, it kind of starts to fill inside the bladder, and there is a capacity to which the bladder kind of can hold the urine. Okay, now the function of the bladder, the main function of the bladder is to hold the urine. The secondary function of the bladder is to take the urine out. In order to take the urine out, the detrusor muscle needs to contract. Now, if at all there is a patient with a spinal cord injury, or if at all there is a patient with a neurogenic bladder, as in diabetes, what is going to happen? The capacity of the detrusor muscles to contract is going to go down, or rather it's going to be zero. And if at all the capacity of the detrusor muscles to contract is zero, then what is going to happen? The patient will have to apply the abdominal pressure. Or if at all he doesn't apply any pressure, whenever the urine is coming out from above, that is going to push the urine inside the bladder and some amount of the urine might come out. So even if the bladder is having, let's say, 1 liter or 1.1 liters of the urine, only 15 ml, 30 ml, 50 ml will come out, depending on how much amount of the abdominal pressure or the external pressure is applied. Am I making some sense to you? This is what is called as a overflow dribbling. Another name for this particular condition is paradoxical incontinence. Are you able to understand this point? So overflow dribbling or the paradoxical incontinence is the one which is occurring in the patients with a neurogenic bladder, where the bladder is overfilled and there is no more capacity, and that is why some amount of the urine is coming out. But patient will not tell you all these things. What will patient tell you? Patient will tell you that, what, doctor, I have to go to the washroom every 15 to 20 minutes, and every time I go, only around 15, 20, 50, 30 ml comes out. And you'll ask the patient, do you have the sensation of the urine going to the washroom? He'll say, no, I never have the sensation. Why? Because it's a neurogenic bladder. There is no sensation. The patient is not having a painful retention. It's a painless retention, painless chronic retention of the urine. I hope I have made some sense whatever I was trying to convey over here. Okay. So yeah, that is how the frequency can help you. Like how much is the frequency and whether the frequency is present or not. That is how it can help you. Okay, it was a bit deep, but I hope you have understood. Now, nocturia, like how many times the patient has to get up, less than 1 is fine, more than 1 or 2 times is something which kind of worrisome. But yeah, like you have to this is again a storage symptom. Then urgency and urgent continence. What is urgency? What is urgent continence? Let's say I'm kind of taking the lecture, and if at all I have a sensation of passing the urine, I can wait like for half an hour, 1 hour. That is, I don't have an urgency. Let's say if at all I cannot wait, I have to pause this particular recording and I have to go to the washroom. And if at all before reaching to the washroom, some amount of the urine leaks out. That is what is called as the urge incontinence. So urgency means the sensation to go immediately to the washroom. That is what is an urgency. Urge incontinence is when you are not able to even control the urine. Like before reaching the washroom, you pass the urine out. So that is the difference between urgency and urge incontinence. These are the storage symptoms. Then voiding symptoms are hesitancy, reduced stream, and the straining. Hesitancy means when you go to the washroom, you take some time for the urine flow to start. That is hesitancy. What is reduced stream? The flow of the urine, the girth of the kind of the flow is a bit reduced. So you will say that, okay, the patient will tell you that my flow is poor. That's what they will tell you. And the straining, like they have to kind of apply pressure in order to pass the urine. So that is all about it. Now post-micturition latch, so there can be incomplete voiding and the post-micturition dribbling. So the patient may say that, you know what, like after passing the urine, I'm not satisfied. I feel that the urine is still remaining inside my bladder. That is what they call it as a incomplete evacuation of the bladder. So they have a feeling of an incomplete emptying of the bladder. That's what you need to understand. And then post-micturition dribbling, yeah, that can happen in some patients. That's fine. Now let's talk about the storage LUTS. It's overactive bladder, and the voiding LUTS is a bladder outlet obstruction. So storage LUTS are more common in the, what do you call it, the overactive bladder, when the detrusor is kind of contracting again and again and again. So that is when you are going to have the frequency and the urgency and the urgent continence. But if at all, let's say you are having the poor flow, hesitancy and all those things, they are the features of your bladder outlet obstruction. Okay, so these two slides were just the names, but it is going to tell you a lot. Like when you kind of read urology in a bit more detail, you will understand the significance of each of these particular symptoms. I hope you have understood at least a bit. Now coming to a simple one-liner, they might ask you that after doing a TURP, which symptom of the patient may not get corrected. So it is post-void dribbling. Post-void dribbling might continue, but it's fine. It's nothing kind of a big deal about it. It's absolutely fine.